Let's now talk about Thomas Kyd, one of the most important dramatists of the Elizabethan stage. Born in 1558, Kyd is often credited with initiating the revenge tragedy genre with his groundbreaking play, The Spanish Tragedy, always been asked in exam. This play, written around 1587, was so influential that it became a blueprint for later revenge drama. It's also known by the name of its protagonist, Hieronimo or Geronimo. His name always appeared in exam. The play introduced key features of the revenge tradition: bloody plots, ghosts, madness, delay, and climactic violence. What made it even more remarkable was its double climax, a dramatic middle turning point followed by an explosive finale. Now here's the part you should pause and note. Hieronimo's character in the Spanish tragedy is widely seen as a direct forerunner of Shakespeare's Hamlet. This was once asked in exam. The grief, the obsession with revenge, the hesitation, and even the staging of a play within a play, these elements echo in Shakespeare's masterpiece. That's why Kyd's work is considered one of the deepest influences on Elizabethan drama. Kyd displayed a natural gift for tragic situations and psychological intensity, giving his plays a raw emotional power that captured audiences. His contribution wasn't just in structure, but in depth, introducing a new seriousness to English tragedy. As for his works, the dates are approximate, but here's the key list to remember. Don Horatio, partly preserved in the first part of Hieronimo around 1586. The Spanish Tragedy around 1587, the date has been asked in exam. The Householder's Philosophy, a translation from 1588. M. attributed around 1590. Arden of Faversham attributed 1592. Soliman and Persida attributed around 1593. Cornelia, his translation of Robert Garnier in 1594. King Lear attributed 1594. So, when examiners bring up Kyd, focus on these anchors. The Spanish tragedy as the first revenge tragedy, Hieronimo's link to Hamlet, and the alternative title Hieronimo or Geronimo. Kyd's career was brief, but his influence stretched far, paving the way for Shakespeare, Marlowe, and the golden age of Elizabethan drama. Alright, let's now explore one of the most important plays of the Elizabethan stage, Thomas Kyd's The Spanish Tragedy, written around 1587. This play did something extraordinary. It launched an entirely new genre in English drama, the revenge tragedy. The play begins with the ghost of Don Andrea, a Spanish nobleman killed in a recent battle with Portugal. This opening was asked in exam. Together with the allegorical figure Revenge, Andrea watches the unfolding events, much like a supernatural commentator. Already, you can see the blueprint for Shakespeare's Hamlet. Now here's the part examiners love to test: the play within a play. In the Spanish tragedy, Kyd uses this device to trap the murderers, just as Shakespeare would later do in Hamlet with the mousetrap. It was asked in exam. The play within the play here is called Soliman and Persida. This name of this was asked in exam. This clever structural trick makes Kyd the true pioneer of stage self-reflexivity. Let's meet the major characters. First, we have Hieronimo, the king's marshal, is loyal at first but turns vengeful after the brutal murder of his son Horatio, and this character was asked in exam. Belle Imperia, strong and headstrong, seeks revenge not only for her lover Andrea but also for Horatio, again asked in exam. Lorenzo, the scheming villain, manipulates events and embodies cold-blooded ambition, again asked in exam. Balthazar, the hot-headed prince, murders Horatio out of pride and jealousy. Horatio, Hieronimo's son, represents innocence and loyalty until his tragic death. Isabella, Hieronimo's wife, is tormented by grief and takes her own life. And of course, the ghost of Andrea hovers throughout, urging on revenge, much like the ghost of King Hamlet. Supporting figures like the ambivalent King of Spain, the grieving Portuguese Viceroy, the deceitful Pedringano, and the treacherous Villupo all add to the play's atmosphere of corruption, betrayal, and blood. The Spanish tragedy is not just about revenge, it's about justice denied, grief consuming reason, and the terrible spiral of violence. That's why it is often seen as the ancestor of Shakespeare's Hamlet. So, your exam anchors are crystal clear. The Spanish tragedy as the first revenge play. The ghost of Don Andrea at the beginning. The play within a play, Soliman and Persida. And the unforgettable characters, Hieronimo, Bellimperia and Lorenzo. Kidd's masterpiece set the stage for decades of bloody, psychological and haunting drama that defined Elizabethan and Jacobean theatre. Alright, let's break down the plot of Thomas Kidd's The Spanish Tragedy, the play that launched the revenge tragedy tradition. The story begins in a chilling way. On stage from the very start are Andrea's ghost and the figure of revenge. They act as the chorus throughout the play. This opening was asked in exam. Andrea, a Spanish knight, has been killed in battle by Balthazar, the Prince of Portugal, before Balthazar himself was captured. Now Andrea's restless ghost seeks vengeance for the injustices done to him. This particular point was asked in exam. The political backdrop is tense. The Viceroy of Portugal had rebelled against Spanish rule before the events of the play, so conflict and mistrust are already in the air. Early on, we see a dispute. The king's nephew, Lorenzo, and Horatio, son of Hieronimo, quarrel over who truly captured Balthazar. Horatio defeated him in combat, but Lorenzo slyly takes partial credit. This combat was asked in exam. Now comes the love triangle. Bellimperia, who had once loved Andrea, shifts her affection to Horatio as part of her plan to avenge Andrea's death. Meanwhile, Balthazar himself falls hopelessly in love with Bellimperia. It was asked in exam. To settle matters, the Spanish king arranges for Bellimperia to marry Balthazar, an arrangement that sparks disaster. Consumed by jealousy, Lorenzo spies on Bellimperia and Horatio. With the help of Pedringano, he plots their downfall. In one of the play's most shocking scenes, Lorenzo and Balthazar murder Horatio during a secret meeting with Bellimperia. His parents, Hieronimo and Isabella, discover his body. Isabella descends into madness and later takes her own life, while Hieronimo is consumed by grief and rage. Bellimperia, equally determined for vengeance, sends a letter written in her own blood to Hieronimo. This letter convinces him that Lorenzo and Balthazar are guilty and asked in exam. Meanwhile, Lorenzo has Pedringano kill Cerberine, then ensures Pedringano is executed falsely, promising him a pardon. As the news tightens, Hieronimo tries to appeal to the king for justice but is blocked by Lorenzo at every turn. His frustration boils into madness. In despair, he digs the ground in grief while rumors spread that he is insane with jealousy. But here comes the masterstroke. Hieronimo pretends reconciliation with Lorenzo and proposes staging a play before the court. This was asked in exam. The chosen play, Soliman and Persida. And here's the twist. Real daggers are used. It was asked in exam. During the performance, Hieronimo and Bellimperia turn fiction into bloody reality. Lorenzo and Balthazar are killed, Bellimperia stabs herself, and Hieronimo reveals the truth of their crimes to the stunned court. Again asked in exam. Finally, in one last act of revenge, Hieronimo kills the Duke and then takes his own life. This ending was asked in exam. The cycle of revenge is complete, but at the cost of nearly everyone. The Spanish tragedy closes with the grim triumph of Andrea's ghost and revenge, proving Kidd's mastery of tragic form.